Back now to Iowa, where sentencing is underway for Karina Cooper. You remember we brought you this case here on Court TV. And she's facing life in prison without parole after being convicted of first-degree murder in the death of her husband, Ryan Cooper. He was found with 2 gunshot wounds to his face at their home back in June of 2021. It took authorities 3 years to finally arrest her. Now at trial, prosecutors argued that Karina was having an affair with a man named Houston Danker and that the two plotted to kill Ryan to collect his life insurance money. Prosecutors called it a meticulously planned murder during the trial. Now, before we head back in for more of that sentencing, I want to bring in our guest, joining us, criminal defense attorney Jeffrey Wolf. Jeffrey, great to see you as always. Thank you so much for joining me here on the program. First and foremost, I want to talk about the victim impact statement we just heard. I always try to pick something out that sort of reaches out to me, want to know what sort of affected you. But the thing that sort of touched me was she talked about at the very beginning, you know, closure is something that many people expect to get from these type of proceedings. And she said, when the guilty verdict came in, it didn't feel like closure. It just felt like someone had died. I just found that interesting because closure isn't always the same. They don't always get it, but they just have to move on. And she talked about really focusing on family.
Yeah, I've heard judges try to explain this to families of victims all the time, that the verdict, the sentence, none of it is going to fix anything. And victim families, I think, have a really hard time coming to grips with that no matter what happens in the courtroom, you're still going to be left with the consequences of whatever's happened to your family member, especially in a case where somebody is deceased. And I think that trying to focus on what you're going to do moving forward and how your life is going to change moving forward now that the case is out of your life, especially one that's gone on this long, is a much healthier way of thinking about things than thinking about retribution and revenge, because those things, they just live in your heart forever. And I am oftentimes trying to talk to prosecutors as a defense attorney about the punishment that my client is going to suffer is not going to actually do anything for the victim family, because it's not. And you oftentimes will hear about victim families coming forward later, whether it's in a death penalty case or, you know, decades later while somebody's still in prison, and saying that it didn't actually fix anything. And sometimes they reconcile with the very person who's committed the crime against their family, because that is more healing than the retribution ends up being.
Exactly. That I was going to say. Sometimes they figure out that that is the better way to go. It just makes you feel better. But at least for that previous witness, she said she wasn't going to give Karina Cooper not one more thought. All right, Jeff, stand by. I want to go back into court now. Ryan Cooper's sister, Michelle Wilson, is about to give her victim impact statement to the court.
So if you could just give us your first and last name as well and spell them so we have it clear.
Sure. Michelle Wilson, M-I-C-H-E-L-L-E-W-I-L-S-O-N.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. And whenever you're ready, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, today's the day. The day I can finally speak out about how this narcissistic psychopath made the incomprehensible choice to rid her pathetic life of my brother, Ryan Cooper. I began writing notes for this statement over 4 years ago. The first note started just one day after Ryan's murder. The day we sat in the building right next door and learned who was responsible for this heinous crime. Ryan was my little brother, 10 years younger than myself. From the time he was old enough to walk, he was kicking around in cowboy boots and farming from the living room floor with his extensive set of red Case IH die-cast farm implements and his Peterbilt semi-tractors and trailers. That kid was no doubt going to be a farmer. As he grew up, he quickly moved on to dirt bikes, four-wheelers, and real tractors. He loved all kinds of toys, even in his adulthood. During planting and harvesting seasons, Ryan couldn't wait to get out of school and into the cab of a tractor. there was never any question about what Ryan wanted to be when he grew up. He was a farmer through and through. It was also clear from a young age that Ryan had a fondness for little ones. I have so many photos of Ryan holding and playing with my babies, his nieces and nephews. Even more than being a farmer, he wanted to be a dad. Nothing made him prouder and more overjoyed than having a family of his own. His 4 children, Cole, Cade, Gable, and Cortland, were his most cherished treasures, and he loved them with every ounce of his being. On June 18th, 2021, all of this was taken from Ryan, and Ryan was taken from us. Back in July, just 2 months ago, we all heard the horrific details of the day that Ryan was murdered and the absolutely disgusting 5 months of planning that led up to that day. But what ensued in the coming months, weeks, coming days, weeks, months, and years was atrocious. Imagine your brother had been murdered. Imagine the person responsible for his murder was living in your brother's home along with him and his 3 young children. The heinous crime was committed in their home while 3 of the children slept upstairs. And no efforts were made by the person responsible to protect his children from either the purported random intruder or from the horrific crime scene. Within 24 hours, you have been assured by law enforcement that the evidence collected thus far undeniably demonstrates her involvement. Though much of the evidence is unable to be disclosed, you know just enough to begin putting the pieces together. Meanwhile, you are grieving and processing the murder of your brother. You are planning a funeral, all the details being decided alongside your brother's murderer. And that's just the beginning. The person responsible for your brother's murder now has custody of your brother's children. This person, who is typically a passionate, intense, assertive, and aggressive person, has nothing to share with law enforcement, offers no details or insights into who or how someone could come into their home and murder your brother, and never seeks a single update on the status of the case from law enforcement. Over the next 32 months, you want to see your brother's children. You want to remain part of their lives. You want them to know how important they are to you. But in order to do that...
All right, we're going to take a break here, folks. When we come back, we'll have more of Ryan's sister's impact statement. And a little later in the hour, we'll have the judge's sentencing. It's Blvd here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
I wanted to be a reporter since I was 4 years old. I always knew that I wanted to tell stories. I feel really proud that I work at Scripps News. Our reporters get to delve into the topics that we care about and that we want to dig deeper into. There's a real investment in going where the stories are, giving people the full picture, reporting what is happening firsthand.
Alex Miller, Scripps News, New York.
For live reports, breaking news, and headlines from across the country, stream Scripps News.
You got us banned from being room parents? I have never been more in love with you.
Who wants to go nuts for donuts?
Show him your folding trick.
I'm not in the mood for your sheet right now.
That's gotta hurt, huh?
You keep me coming back for more. These are the cases that captivated the world.
Couldn't keep my life straight.
They were killed by their own children.
That challenged the legal system and ourselves. Court TV, legendary trials.
Jesse Palmer, Emmett Smith, both of us together? This must be some kind of TV fantasy.
Nope,
It's reality. Tableau reality. Tableau lets you watch, pause, and record live TV subscription-free.
Pause you, Jesse. I'm here for 100+ channels. News, reality, movies, free live sports. Plus, it's game time.
Tableau. It's not fantasy, it's reality.
And a smart play.
Learn more at TableauTV.com.
The MVP of TV.
At Denver 7 News, we're committed to covering our community.
This has been such an important topic for so many.
Always listening.
Somebody listening. That's the big thing.
Finding solutions.
It's sure changed everything.
Thank you so much.
Making sure your voice is heard.
Let's find out what brings us together versus what pulls us apart.
Because we know local news should do more than just inform. It should connect.
You and I are going for a long ride.
Might be dangerous. You talk me into it.
All right. Start talking.
Ready. I'll leave that up to Nate.
I didn't hear anybody knock. This mask stands for justice.
How about the next clap of thunder?
That answer your question?
Are you still alive? You didn't exactly turn your back. I'll be back.
How prepared is your family if disaster shows up at your doorstep? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan before they show up. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes!
Make a plan today.
Behind every race car driver is a passion for staying ahead. Competing in the Scripps National Spelling Bee gave me an edge by teaching me to view every challenge as a learning opportunity. Just like in racing, no matter where you place in the bee, you can push yourself and discover what you're really made of.
Empower your students to dream big, just like NASCAR driver and Tableau TV ambassador Ryan Ellis. Put them on the fast track to success and sign up for the Scripps National Spelling Bee today.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Sentencing is underway in Iowa for Karina Cooper. A jury convicted Cooper of first-degree murder in the death of her husband, Ryan, back in July. Now, Cooper conspired with her lover, Houston Danker, to kill her husband so that she could collect $500,000 in life insurance money and start a new life with him. Well, Cooper faces a life sentence now without the possibility of parole. I want to get you back into court, hearing from the victim's sister.
But in order to do that, you have to spend birthdays, holidays, vacations, other family events, and community activities with your brother's murderer. You want to be there for anything and everything your niece and nephews might need. But along with spending time with the kids, you must also spend time with your brother's murderer. You want to help support their well-being and provide for their basic needs if they have lost not only their father, but the place they could call home. So you provide them and your brother's murderer with family acreage. During all this time, your brother's murder is parading around the community, portraying herself as a grieving widow and a victim. She is manipulating anyone and everyone who would listen. She rarely ever speaks your brother's name, only occasionally mentioning him in conversation, and then referring to him only as husband. She sought praise and accolades for her actions and her efforts in building this new life for herself and her children. The new life that began when she murdered your brother. She even expresses to others how she felt the Cooper family was failing to support her and the children, like we had just abandoned them altogether and were choosing to exclude them from our family. Thankfully, many could see through her lies, but unfortunately, many others were caught up in her manipulation. As much as we wanted to face Ryan's murderer, confront her about her actions, to tell her we weren't believing her lies, we had to keep up the facade. We continued to hug her. We continued to tell her we loved her. All the while, she's still believing she's successfully hiding her deepest, darkest secret, that she murdered our brother in cold blood. We did that for the children, to protect and maintain our relationship with Ryan's children. And we did that to allow the investigators time to assemble and prepare the solid, masterful, and airtight case we heard at trial. Ryan, we will never stop saying Ryan's name. We will never stop celebrating Ryan's life. And we will never stop supporting Ryan's greatest and most beautiful legacy, his children. Cole, Cade, Cable, and Cortland will forever know how much their father loved them and how so very proud of them he was. Ryan will forever be remembered as a wonderful father, son, brother, uncle, friend, truck driver, neighbor. He was a man of few words. He spent hours on the phone, hours on end, making phone calls. And you all remember the headset and the miles and miles he paced while talking on his phone. And though it seemed he only had a few close friends, the attendance at his funeral and the miles-long line of semis at his funeral procession say the most about who he was to our community. Ryan was sentenced to death by this murderer. Those of us left on earth were sentenced to life without Ryan. There is no justice. There will be no forgiveness. What I hope for now is simply closure. There is no sentence for you that would adequately punish you for your evil, vile, selfish, delusional, and narcissistic actions. I will waste no time and no energy in addressing you about that. My full, complete, and final message to you is go to hell. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, some harsh words again there at the end of that victim impact statement. Let's bring back in our guest still with us, criminal defense attorney Jeffrey Wolf. And Jeffrey, as a defense attorney representing someone like Karina Cooper under these circumstances where life without parole is mandatory, under these circumstances, do you have a strategy going in? Is there something you're thinking? We know she is appealing, was rejected here. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what would be a strategy that you would be thinking, if any?
There really isn't a whole lot of strategy. You try to limit what you're doing in this circumstance. You let the victim family have their day. This day is about them. This day is about the deceased. And you try to limit what your client is doing and most definitely limit what your client is saying. Because if you are appealing, if you are successful on that appeal, everything is recorded and you don't want any more said by your client at this point, so that if something comes back and there's another trial, there's not some statement or allocution from your client or admission from your client that is going to then be used in another trial. You want to just let the victim family have their day. It's a really, really tough hearing as a defense attorney to sit through. It's a solemn day. You be sympathetic. You sit there, you listen to it, you let the slings and the arrows hit you, because sometimes they come for the lawyers too in these hearings. They haven't yet that we've heard, but it's a tough day and you get through it.
How do you feel about that when they do direct some of their ire at the attorneys? We had one yesterday where one of the victim impact statements really focused in on the lawyers, talking about, how could they represent someone like that who had killed their loved one. How do you feel about that? I felt like perhaps the court should step in and say, look, that's not what this day is about. Or do you think it's okay to let them go on and say what they have to say? Because again, like you said, this day is about the victims.
The court should absolutely step in, but the court rarely does. The court usually just lets people say whatever the heck they want to. Quite frankly, the court should step in when somebody's telling somebody to go to hell, too. But at the end of the day, the court is going to do what the court's going to do. As an attorney, what you do is you rise above it. When they go low, you go high, as we say. And you just stay stone-faced, you stay somber, and you ignore it. You move on, and you go let your loved ones at home tell you you're a good person, because you are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're just doing your job at the end of the day, which is why I even mentioned it. The last thing I want to talk about quickly, you talked a little bit about you don't want your client to speak, and we saw in this instance, Karina Cooper decided not to say something. But in light of the fact that she took the stand and proclaimed her innocence, she had an entire story. She was being manipulated, et cetera, by Houston Danker. So the judge has actually heard her at this point. I'm sure it's in his mind that she took the stand and told the jury she wasn't responsible for this crime, and we know the court likes for defendants to take responsibility. Is that a problem? And would that change your approach, knowing that she took the stand?
I mean, it's not a problem in this case where the sentence is what the sentence is. If there's a sentencing range that you're working with, then yeah, you may have to get up there and you may have to start singing a different tune, depending on what your client's position is. If your client's position is that they didn't do it, well, they got convicted, but that doesn't mean your client's position has changed, and not every verdict is correct. Innocent people go to prison. It happens in this country. And if we're thinking that just because somebody got convicted, it's possible that they are not innocent, we haven't been watching enough TV and we haven't been reading enough of the newspapers.
Yeah, fair enough. This was one of those cases, though, as the judge said, seemed like the great weight of evidence was for a conviction, and the jury agreed. All right, Jeff, stand by. We're going to take a break, but before we do, I have an update for you out of Washington State and the search for the ex-soldier accused of killing his 3 daughters. Officials believe that they found the remains of Travis Decker deep in the mountains. Back in June, a sheriff's deputy found his truck and the bodies of his 3 young daughters at a campground. Those bodies, bound with zip ties, had plastic bags placed over their heads. Autopsy results showed the girls died from suffocation. Investigators say they are now waiting on DNA results to make a positive ID. Now, of course, we'll continue to track the story and bring you updates as we get them. And also coming up, the judge sentences Karina Cooper in the Widow's Words murder trial. So stay tuned. Keep it here on Court TV.
Tonight, on Closing Arguments, reaction to today's verdict in the pregnant mistress murder trial. We'll break down the jury's decision and tell you what's next for the defendant.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Join me for a Court TV true crime series.
I've never seen anything like this.
This was a whole different level.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands. Season premieres September 27th.
Only on Court TV.
Hey, try Robitussin salt juice.
Packed with the power of Robitussin in every bite. Fast cough relief anywhere. Chew on relief? Chew on a Robitussin.
Scripps News is streaming for free on all your favorite streaming services. Once you get the app, get free access to breaking news, live events, and the award-winning journalism you expect from Scripps News. Start streaming Scripps News today.
Ion, it's on, wherever you watch.
How prepared is your family if disaster shows up at your doorstep? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan before they show up. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes!
Make a plan today.
These are the cases that captivated the world.
Couldn't keep my life straight.
They were killed by their own children.
That challenged the legal system and ourselves. Court TV Legendary Trials.
You and I are going for a long ride.
Might be dangerous. You talk me into it.
All right. Start talking.
Ready. I'll leave that up to Nate. I didn't hear anybody knock. This mask stands for justice.
How about the next clapper thunder?
That answer your question?
Are you still alive?
You didn't exactly turn your back.
I'll be back.
Behind every race car driver is a passion for staying ahead. Competing in the Scripps National Spelling Bee gave me an edge by teaching me to view every challenge as a learning opportunity. Just like in racing, no matter where you place in the bee, you can push yourself and discover what you're really made of.
Empower your students to dream big, just like NASCAR driver and Tableau TV ambassador Ryan Ellis. Put them on the fast track to success and sign up for the Scripps National Spelling Bee today.
You got us banned from being room parents? I have never been more in love with you.
Who wants to go nuts for donuts?
Show him your folding trick.
I'm not in the mood for your sheet right now.
That's gotta hurt, huh?
You keep me coming back for more.
All right, we'll head back to court in just a moment, but first, it's been a day of verdicts here on Court TV, and I want to update you on a verdict that happened earlier today in the pregnant mistress murder trial of Jose Soto Escalera. After just over an hour of deliberations, the jury returned a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Tanya Wise and her unborn baby. The married father of 4 killed Wise after he gave her $500 to get an abortion, but she didn't go through with it and also threatened to tell his wife about their affair. Let's watch the moment the defendant heard the jury's verdict.
We, the jury, find Jose Soto Escalera as to count 1, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. As to count 2, guilty of first-degree murder of an unborn child as charged in the indictment. So say we all, this 19th day of September, 2025.
Now remember, the death penalty is in play there. Sentencing is set for next Wednesday, September 24th. Also in Florida, a jury reached a verdict in the dosed and choked murder trial for Herbert Swilley. After nearly 2 hours of deliberations, the jury found Swilley guilty of premeditated murder in the first degree. Swilley killed his husband, Tim Smith, by giving him a large dose of sleeping pills and then choking him and actually beating him to death as well. Investigators say that Swilley moved the body to another apartment that they owned to make it look like a sexual encounter gone wrong. Now, let's listen back now to the verdict in that case from earlier today.
Verdict. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. So say we all do this 19th day of September 2025.
Now, in that instance, immediately following the verdict, the judge sentenced Swilley to life in prison. All right, let's head back now to the sentencing in Iowa for a woman convicted of killing her husband. Karina Cooper was found guilty of first-degree murder for the shooting death of her husband, Ryan. Cooper conspired with her lover, Houston Danker, to kill Ryan so that they could be together and to collect a $500,000 life insurance policy. Well, now she faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. Let's take you back inside that courtroom where the judge is about to hand down his sentence.
Then at this time, Ms. Cooper is adjudicated to be guilty of the offense of murder in the first degree in violation of Iowa Code Sections 701.7 and 707.2, Parent 1, Parent A, and judgment is entered accordingly. She is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her custody is placed with the Director of the Division of Adult Corrections for temporary custody with the County Sheriff. Ms. Cooper shall pay victim restitution to the estate of Ryan Cooper in the amount of $150,000 as required by Iowa Code Section 910.3B, Parent 1. And Mr. Harbacre, there was a supplemental restitution request to Crime Victim Services, I believe, in the amount of $14,944.76. Any objection to that?
No, Your Honor.
I should also make restitution in that amount to Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Ms. Cooper shall also make restitution for court costs in the amount established by the clerk of court and restitution for court-appointed counsel fees. Are you requesting any fees, Mr. Hawbaker?
No, Your Honor.
With respect to Category B restitution, I've reviewed an affidavit that Mr. Hawbaker has. Mr. Ringel, have you seen that?
I have, Your Honor. Yes.
Does the state have any objection to me making a decision based on Ms. Cooper's ability to pay Category B restitution based on my review of that affidavit?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Well, having reviewed that affidavit, I will waive payment of Category B restitution in Ms. Cooper's case. As required by Chapter 81 of the Iowa Criminal Code, Ms. Cooper shall provide a DNA sample to the Department of Correctional Services for purposes of DNA profiling. Based on the nature of the offense and as required by Iowa Code Section 811.1, there's no bail in this case. As far as the reasons for my sentence are concerned, the sentence imposes a mandatory sentence about which the court has no discretion. I will say, this was a senseless crime. Mr. Cooper was, by what I heard at trial and from the statements I heard today, a hardworking, kind, generous man who loved his children and his many friends. Ms. Cooper, your actions, whether you were the one who shot Mr. Cooper or whether as a result of aiding and abetting Houston Danker resulted in his death, they deprived your children of not only a father, but of a mother. And I can't really state any more eloquently than was stated in the victim impact statements, the broader impact it's had on Mr. Cooper's many friends and family. Ms. Cooper, I do need to inform you that you have a right to appeal this case to the Iowa Supreme Court. If you're unable to pay the cost of an appeal, you have the right to apply to this court for appointment of counsel and furnishing them any necessary transcripts of relevant proceedings. All is provided for in Iowa Criminal Code, Chapter 814. If you do want to appeal, you have to perfect your appeal by filing a written notice of appeal with the Tama County Clerk of Court no later than 30 days from today's date. Perfection of your appeal on that matter is jurisdictional. Failure to comply with the provisions set out in Iowa Criminal Code Chapter 814 would preclude you from your right to pursue an appeal. If you do want to appeal, you have to have a copy of your notice of appeal served on or delivered to the Iowa Attorney General's office. I believe that concludes the record. Mr. Ringel, is there any further record that the state believes needs to be made at this point?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Hawbaker, any further record that you believe needs to be made?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then that will conclude the record. Counsel, can I just, when you get a moment, can I talk to each of you just real quick?
All right, so an emotional Karina Cooper now the property of the Iowa Department of Corrections for the rest of her life. Let's bring back in our guest, that's criminal defense attorney Jeffrey Wolf. Jeffrey, you saw the attorney talking to his client there. As much as you expect this, you know this is coming. It's always a difficult moment. It hits like a hammer. What's that conversation like? And when do you get to talk to her again? And what are you guys talking about? Take us behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, the last conversation you have with a client who is about to go to prison is a somber one. It's usually brief. You usually will, tell them to keep their head up. And, if there's an appeal coming, you'll tell them that, the appellate lawyer will come meet with you. Or if you're the appellate lawyer, you'll tell them when you're going to come meet with them. Usually, let them know that you're going to talk to their family, and you've usually prepared them for that day. So there's not a lot to talk about in that moment other than to, try to be human to them in that moment, because not a lot of people have. And so you try to have a bit of humanity with your client, have a bit of a moment where you try to remind them that you still care, even in that darkest moment in their life.
Yeah, fair enough. Another part of that sentence, as we heard from the judge, was this $14,000 plus in restitution to the Crime Victims Compensation Board. Talk to me a little bit about that, because what's interesting about this case is initially she was considered a victim of this crime. She wasn't arrested for 3 years when they finally got enough evidence to arrest her. So I imagine she took advantage of some of what the system was offering her.
Yeah, she probably did. And so the Victim Compensation Board in most jurisdictions is a bit nebulous of a term because they're not necessarily collecting money back that they gave to her. Victim compensation boards are going to pay out to any victims of the crime. And so it's going to be something where the family may have had therapy or the payment of the funeral costs, anything they're out of pocket. Victim compensation boards are there to vet that money and get it to victims sooner so that they are made whole, and then to collect the money and have that money come out of the county's budget rather than coming out of the victim's pocket and have them be out that money for an elongated period of time. Because let's face it, she's going to prison. That money is not going to get paid back anytime soon, if at all. And so the county has paid that money to the victims. They've been made whole. And now the county's budget has a line item in it that may or may not get paid back. That's essentially what it is.
And I would imagine that if she had any assets, I got about 10 seconds here, Jeff, if she had any assets or anything, they would sell those and sort of put that towards that restitution?
Yeah, exactly, because it doesn't discharge in bankruptcy. So,
all right,
yeah,
fair enough. Jeffrey Wolf, thank you so much for being with me this afternoon. Truly appreciate it. Folks, I want you to stick around. Coming up, we're going to head to another case happening out of Iowa, the machete murder plot trial of Dakota Van Patten. We'll have opening statements for you there, so keep it right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.